Welcome back to the Crypto Watch channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now, Bitcoin is bouncing from very important support as the price is now starting to play out this oversold signal in the short term. So I'll be talking more about that in just a moment, alongside my trading strategy for the price of Bitcoin right now. And as always, I'll be talking about Ethereum, which is now running into the most important line of support on the price chart, while Solana is still just holding above this important area of support, while XRP is still trying to hold on to this area of support, but now starting to play out a bearish divergence, while the price of Chainlink is massively bouncing from the most important Fibonacci level. So I'll be talking about all of that and more later in the video, so definitely watch to the end. First of all, just before we take a look at the Bitcoin charts today, if we're taking a quick look at the US stock market, this is the S&P 500 index on the 1 hour time frame, and we could see just recently, obviously alongside the drop in crypto, stocks also had a drop as a result of the news that I talked about in my last video. And so if you want to know the trade war that's basically ongoing at the moment, then check out my last video here on the channel, because in that video just yesterday, I explained in a little bit more detail about what is going on with the Trump tariffs and the trade war and why that is spooking markets, at least at the moment. But we could see here that the US stock market, the S&P 500 at least, actually opened much lower compared to Friday's close price. Monday opened much lower with a major drop, but since the opening, we did actually see a bit of a rebound, at least so far throughout the trading day. And so as of right now, of course, this can ultimately change at some point, but as of right now, this is looking somewhat similar to that DeepSeek event that happened basically around a week ago. That's where it really shocked the markets back then. And so in a way, we basically got back-to-back miniature black swan events with the DeepSeek announcement, or really effect on the market at least. Obviously it was announced sooner, but the effect of DeepSeek on the market around a week ago, and then the effect of the tariffs on the market over the last couple of days. And obviously what happened previously at that miniature black swan event, if you want to call it that, was a massive drop initially as everyone was just panicking in the market, but then ultimately we did see a recovery over the next few days or so, back up towards the upside, at least here in the S&P 500 index. And so for all we know, this could just be an initial panic to the massive news that's happened over the last 48 hours or so, and then perhaps over the coming days we might see the market basically come to terms with what is happening, and we might see a slight little recovery. So just keep that in mind. At least so far, this is playing out somewhat similar to what we saw around a week ago. And the reason why I'm talking about the S&P 500 index and the US stock market in general on a crypto channel is because crypto is heavily correlated to the stock market. So of course it's not a one-to-one perfect correlation, but if the stock market has a major dump or has a major recovery, crypto usually plays out similar price action to what stocks are doing in general. And so with that being said, taking a look at the Bitcoin charts today on this weekly time frame, and technically speaking, we can still remain within a larger bull market despite seeing short-term pullbacks along the way. Of course, during previous bull markets, we've seen many short-term dumps and pullbacks during these larger bull markets. So just keep that in mind. It's all about perspective when we're zooming out, looking at the bigger picture. Not a lot has changed over the last couple of days on this weekly time frame. And if we're taking a look at this weekly Bitcoin chart in the weekly Bitcoin MACD, we're actually getting extremely close to a possible bearish crossover in the weekly Bitcoin MACD for the first time in almost a year. And so the last time this happened, that was around April 2024, and what came next was a larger bearish trend for the next half a year or so, up until around September 2024. And so in other words, we need to see a bullish move very soon. At some point in the next 1 to 2 weeks, we need to see a decent bullish move in the price of Bitcoin in order to avoid a possible bearish crossover in this indicator. And like I just said, if that bearish crossover confirms, which could happen at some point in the next 1 or 2 weeks if we fail to see any significant bullish movement here, if that signal confirms, we may end up start playing out a larger bearish trend until the second half of this year. That is right, more bearish price action for many months if this signal actually confirms, which we're still waiting to see. Once again, that could happen at some point in the next couple of weeks. And so as always, I will keep you up to date on what's happening on this Bitcoin chart and many other important charts here on the channel every day. So make sure you're subscribed to this channel with notifications turned on so that you don't miss out on any of these important update videos. But with that being said, taking a look at this 4-day Bitcoin chart, and technically speaking, the super trend indicator is still sitting in the green, indicating a larger bull market. And looking at this weekly Bitcoin chart just here, we still have a massive bearish divergence on the weekly time frame, which is still potentially a major warning signal to pay attention to. And technically speaking, a bearish divergence ultimately tells us that we are slowing down in the bullish momentum, and we could be due to see a larger cool off or a larger setback in the price of Bitcoin at some point in the next few months or so. But this could be invalidated if we very quickly at some point in the next 1 or 2 weeks see a quick breakout above the previous highs, and especially if we see a breakout in the RSI above this previous high, that would be very bullish for the price of Bitcoin, obviously invalidating the bearish divergence. And so for the Bitcoin bulls out there, essentially we need to see a bullish move, a decent sized bullish move, ideally beyond the all-time high at some point in the next couple of weeks or so, in order to avoid a much more bearish scenario in the coming months. But either way, whether we're bullish or bearish as crypto traders, it does not matter, because we can profit no matter what direction the price is going, as I've done recently here on the channel. As I shared in my last video, I shorted this bearish move right here, making a bunch of profits along the way to the downside. And so once again, if you want to get information like that, subscribe to this channel with notifications turned on to get notified on when I'm taking my trades. And if you want to actually take these trades for yourself, personally, I take a lot of my trades over on Bitfinex, so I'll make sure to leave a link to Bitfinex below this video in the description and in the pinned comment. And if you use that link, it'll take you to this page right here where you can claim some exclusive rewards that are only available using that link. So if you simply just click that link to make your account, then deposit just $100, you get a $20 bonus. Or if you deposit just $1,000, you get a $100 bonus straight into your new account. And then simply just by trading crypto, you can get up to a $200 trading bonus, Apple Watch, Apple AirPods, or even up to a brand new iPhone 16 Pro Max, simply just by trading crypto. So if you're going to be trading crypto anyway, then you might as well check this out. Once again, first link below this video. And also, in case you're wondering, Bitfinex is a no KYC exchange, which means you can access it from basically any country in the world without needing any KYC. But as always, check your local regulations when it comes to trading crypto. And for whatever reason, if you don't want Bitfinex, there is also Bybit as another option out there, another exchange that I also trade on. So I will also make sure to leave a link to Bybit below this video in the description and in the pinned comment. But with that being said, taking a look at this Bitcoin chart on the daily time frame, and obviously, as I said in my last video just yesterday, we already broke below this previous area of support, which should now be acting as new resistance again, and that's sitting in between 101,000 to 103,000. So if we see a further bounce here, expect resistance around there. And of course, we have much more resistance in between 106,000 to 107,000. And basically, the moment we broke below 101,000 with confirmation, with that daily candle close below 101K, that was the signal to start flipping much more bearish again, at least in the short term for the price of Bitcoin. And like I said before that entire drop just here, I said below 101,000, the next major area of support to the downside is at roughly around 92 to 93,000. And we also have a decent amount of support at closer towards 91,000 based on these lows. And so essentially, like I said before this drop, if we break below 101K, expect to move potentially down to that lower 90K area, around 92K, for example. That's exactly what we saw. The price of Bitcoin dropped straight down towards around 91 to 92K, give or take, and then it was very close to that area. That's where we bounced from. And so you can use that information in a very simple trading strategy. For example, once we confirm a break with a daily candle close below that key level of support, if you used that as a signal to open a short position and then trade that move towards the downside, hold the short position all the way towards major support and then take profits around major support where we could potentially bounce from. Of course, that's a very simple trading strategy based on very simple information that could have made you a bunch of easy money while everyone else else in the market is losing money. And obviously I shared in my last video here on the channel just yesterday before the second half of the dump just here, I said I'm shorting the price of Bitcoin, and I did indeed do that. And of course I've taken a lot of profits already out of that trade because we have now bounced from major support and hit oversold territories, which I'll talk about in just a moment. But at this point, I'm basically completely out of that shorts position. It was only just a short-term trade, not a swing trade. And so once again, if you're subscribed to this channel with notifications turned on, and if you took that shorts position, congratulations. While everyone else in the market was losing money, the people on this channel were making a bunch of money. But now that this has already played out, what should we now be expecting? And well, if we're taking a look at this 4-hour Bitcoin chart, we have officially confirmed this oversold signal over the last 1 to 2 days. And of course, I mentioned in my last video just yesterday, I said at some point in the next 1 or 2 days, expect the bearish price action to basically have a relief back towards the upside, or at least some neutral price action. I said yesterday, we're very likely going to reach some sort of point where we're going to stop the bearish price action and help to reset the RSI back up towards more neutral levels at some point in the next 1 or 2 days. That's what I said yesterday, and we're now starting to see this play out. And so at this point where we are sitting at right now, I'm extremely confident that at least for the next few days or weeks, this is a low put in place in the price of Bitcoin, a local low, not necessarily the bottom forever, but at least a low in the price of Bitcoin that will likely hold as the lowest point, at least for the next few days or weeks. And so, of course, it's entirely possible that maybe in a month from now, the price of Bitcoin could be at a lower point compared to this low right here. That could be entirely possible in 1 or 2 months from now. But once again, as I just said, for the next 1 or 2 weeks, potentially it is quite likely we'll now hold above these levels. I'm talking about around 91 to 92K. It's now very likely we'll hold above those levels. And what I now expect for the price of Bitcoin from this point just here is potentially a little bit more of a bullish relief, but honestly, over the next couple of days, it is quite likely we could see quite a lot of choppy sideways price action with maybe a slight bullish bias. That sort of price action right there is what I expect at some point over the next few days or so. But of course, we also need to be aware of those points of support and resistance. So even if we continue a little bit more of a bullish relief over the next few days, expect the price to struggle a lot in between around 101K to 103K, and especially around 106K to 107K. And so it could be a quite likely scenario that the price continues a slight little relief here and then starts struggling around resistance and plays out price action kind of like this, for example. That could be a likely scenario in the coming days. And if we're taking a look at this Bitcoin liquidation heat map, of course, over the last 1 day, we wiped out a bunch of long positions, a massive liquidation event. So essentially, once we wiped out a bunch of long positions at roughly around 97,000, that did indeed cause a long squeeze, the opposite to a short squeeze, wiping out long positions, causing a further drop down towards 91 to 92K. But for now, looking at other levels of liquidity, obviously we wiped out most of the liquidity in the short term that was sitting below the price of Bitcoin. So if we're looking at lower levels of liquidity, we do have a small amount at close to 91K and also a small amount at around 88,000. But as for a lot of liquidity to the upside, we still have a lot sitting at just above 107,000 and at around 108,000, and also more liquidity at around 110,000, obviously just above these points of resistance. And another reason as to why I said I have a slight bullish bias in the short term, on top of the fact that we're playing out this oversold signal, is due to the fact that if we're looking at the funding rates for Bitcoin and a bunch of altcoins across most of these crypto exchanges right here, pretty much all of these funding rates across most of the exchanges are very much negative. They are well below zero and well below the neutral rate, which, by the way, the neutral rate is 0.01%. And so, in other words, a bunch of traders are now interested in opening new shorts positions after we've already seen the move. Obviously, if you're following this channel before the second half of the dump just here, I said this is the point to short. Things are about to get ugly. I talked about that over the last couple of days, but now I've already taken profits out of my my short positions. I'm already closing my short positions. And obviously, like I just said, I do expect a little bit more of a bullish relief potentially here in the short term, possibly up towards this area of resistance, because usually the market moves against what the majority are doing. And right now, the majority are willing to pay a premium to open new short positions because the funding rates are so negative, which means the short positions are having to pay extra fees to the long positions. And so overall, that is what I'm expecting in the short term for the price of Bitcoin, and of course the longer term for the price of Bitcoin. And with that being said, if we're taking a look at the Ethereum chart on the weekly time frame, right now the price of ETH is coming into contact with this massive multi-year trend line of support, and that's sitting at roughly around 2.6k, at just above 2.6k, closer towards around 2650 give or take. And we can see over the last few years, ever since around the middle of 2022, we've seen multiple significant bounces from this exact trend line of support that's basically been a major line of support for a multi-year bull market, because technically speaking, on this weekly time frame, we are forming higher lows and higher highs, which is basically the definition of a bullish market. And so obviously it is very important for the price of ETH to actually hold above this line of support, once again at just above 2.6k, because if we start confirming weekly candle closes below 2.6k, and especially below these previous lows at roughly around 2.2k to 2.3k, obviously that would be very bad news for Ethereum, not just in the short term, but for the longer term. And so that 2.6k level is definitely a crucial level to watch out for. And if we're taking a look at the 3-day time frame, we just perfectly bounced from this golden pocket area of support, and that's sitting in between around 2150 to around 2.2k. So for now, that's the major area of support to pay attention to on top of this line of support. And of course, we've previously seen many important bounces from that area. But if we do continue to see a little bit more of a pullback here in the price of ETH, before that area of support, we also have this level, which could act as a bit of support right now, and that's sitting at around 2.5k. And above that, we could find a small amount of support at close to 2.7k to 2.8k in that area just there. But for now, obviously, if we start confirming candle closes below 2.7 to 2.8k, that could possibly now become new resistance. And as for other levels of resistance further to the upside, if we break out back above 2.8k, then in that case, we'll likely find a decent amount of resistance at around 3,000 to 3.1k based on previous support becoming new resistance. And if we're taking a look at the price of Solana on the daily time frame, obviously Solana, along with the rest of the crypto market, continued that quick liquidation event to the downside towards lower levels of support. And in fact, the moment we started breaking below $200, we saw a quick move down towards this next major area of support, and that was sitting in between around 178 to 183. And I said in my last video before that latest drop just here, I said if we break below around 200, expect a quick move down towards close to 180, and that's exactly what we saw as expected. But now we've found a lot of support at very close to 180 and just below $180, acting as major support. And in terms of the daily candle closes, we're still actually holding on to this area of support, still sitting in between 200 to 205. And so those are the important areas of support to watch out for in the price of Solana. And if we were to actually break below around 178 with confirmation especially, then in that case, the next major area of support to the downside is sitting in between 156 to 160. But for now, those are still acting as major support. And as for resistance, if we actually see a continued bounce here in the short term, I would now expect a decent amount of resistance in between 220 to 225. And above that, more resistance at around 245 to 246. And of course, these higher levels close towards the all-time high. And as usual, I expect somewhat similar price action for a lot of the major altcoins like Solana and Ethereum, for example, to what Bitcoin is doing. So if Bitcoin has a flash crash in the short term, expect similar price action for a lot of major altcoins. And if Bitcoin has a recovery in the short term, expect something similar for a lot of the major altcoins. Not the exact same price action, but something similar. And if we're taking a look at the price of XRP on the daily time frame, obviously once XRP broke below around 260 give or take, we immediately dropped down towards this major area of support based on these previous lows, which was sitting in between around 195 to 205, so close towards $2 give or take. We have major support just there, and the price of XRP did even overshoot that level even further to the downside, down towards around 173. So of course we have found a low just there, which extremely likely we are going to hold above that level at least for the next few days or weeks. And if we're actually drawing a line of support based on these previous lows just here, we potentially found support based on this descending line of support just here, which is currently sitting at just above $1.70. So we still have a lot of support close towards $1.70. But if we're actually looking at the daily candle closes, as of right now, the price of XRP is still just holding on to this area of support based on previous resistance becoming new support based on the daily candle closes at least. And that's sitting in between around 258 to 273. So for now, that's the support to watch out for. And if we see a continued bounce here, we'll likely find resistance at around 290 based on these highs just here, and also these lows just here still acting as resistance at 290. And of course, we have more resistance closer towards around 315, 320, and major resistance closer towards 330 to 340. And we also have to be aware of the fact that we have a major bearish divergence now starting to play out on the daily time frame, and of course larger time frames like the 3-day chart, for example. We have clear higher highs in the price in the candle closes and lower highs in the RSI. So this is telling us that we're losing a lot of bullish momentum in the bull market, starting to change the larger price structure, not just in the immediate short term. And so even though we might see a slight little bullish recovery in the short term, ultimately the larger price structure may end up looking a little bit more bearish, or at the very least neutral, in the coming days or weeks. Now, once again, I don't expect to move below this low just here, but in the next few weeks or so, we might not necessarily have a lot of bullish momentum, so keep that in mind. And if we're taking a look at the price of Chainlink on the daily time frame, Chainlink is now trading back above this Fibonacci level of support based on the daily candle closes, and that's sitting at around $20, at pretty much exactly $20. That's the support I'll now be watching. And below $20, we also have more support at just above $19. So really in between $19 to $20, that is the area of support to watch out for. And further to the downside, we have more support at around $17.60 to $17.70. And below that, we have the all-important golden pocket area of support, and that's sitting in between around $14.90 to $15.50. And that's pretty much exactly where the price of Chainlink bounced on this chart. And so at least over the next few days, but honestly over the next few weeks or so, I do not expect the price of Chainlink to go lower than this area just here. So I'm talking around $15 give or take where we bounced from. I don't expect the price to go lower than that point, at least over the next few days or weeks. Possibly in a number of months from now, it is possible we could trade it lower than that point, but in the next few days or weeks, I don't expect the price to go below that point. And honestly, it's very likely that just in the next few days, we simply lack momentum to either direction in the short term, possibly playing out a bit of choppy sideways price action. So keep that in mind. We may see slight little short-term bounces and short-term pullbacks, but not necessarily significant momentum to either direction, at least for the next few days. Usually after we see a major move like this, for the next few days following that major move, basically the price settles down a little bit in the short term. And if we're taking a quick look at the price of Cardano on the weekly time frame, giving you a quick update on my trading strategy, because obviously over the last one day, my shorts position was extremely profitable with a major move towards the downside. Obviously, as I mentioned in my last video, when the price was at roughly around 80 cents, give or take, I said this is the point to short Cardano. It's very likely we'll see more bearish price action from that point, and that's exactly what we saw as expected. From around 80 cents, give or take, we dropped another almost 40% to the downside, over 30% dump within one day from that point. Not even from the top, just from that point where I said to short Cardano. And so, like I said yesterday, it's very likely we will see a quick move at least down towards around 60 cents as the next major point of support. So around there, I did actually take a decent amount of profits out of my short position. And so right now, obviously, I've closed most of that short position. It's pretty much completely closed. I've taken a massive amount of profits out of that that trade. And so that was very much just a short-term trade, not a larger swing trade. So I'm not looking obviously to hold that trade for weeks or months. Basically right now I'm essentially out of that trade. And so obviously if you followed me yesterday in my last video with this short position that I shared before the second half of this dump just here, congratulations, you would have made a lot of quick and easy money with this dump while everyone else in the market was panicking and losing money. If you simply just follow me on this channel and play short positions when the price is bearish and long positions when the price is bullish, you can make money in either direction. And so I now expect support at roughly around 72 to 73 cents. And of course, more support closer towards 60 cents. And as for resistance, we could now find resistance at around 82 to 83 cents. And of course, very significant resistance in between around $1.13 to $1.23. And like I said throughout this video, at least over the next few days or weeks, I don't expect the price of Cardano to go below this lowest point just here that we made over the last one day at around 50 cents, approximately around 51 cents. I do not expect the price to go lower than that point, at least over the next few days or weeks. It's very possible that maybe in a few months from now, we get lower than that point, but at least in the next few days or weeks, it's very unlikely the price will go below that point, because usually after a major move like this, for the next few days at the very least, we basically chop around and settle a little bit in the short term. And so that's what I'm now expecting for the price of Cardano. That's an update on my trading strategy. And also, if you want to take any of those trades for yourself, once again, check out those links below this video to those exchanges if you want to claim those extra bonuses. And if you want to actually know how to trade these moves to make profit in either direction, then make sure to watch these videos popping up right here on your screen. The video in the top left shows you how you can profit from bullish or bearish price action using long positions or short positions. And the video in the bottom left shows you how you can easily profit from choppy sideways price action. But anyway, that is everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.